I woke up to the sound of the world ending. Not with thunder, not with screams, not even with the sky cracking open like those old disaster movies always promised. It started with a blue screen floating above my bed. System awakening complete. Name Evans. Ability Cooldown Reduction. Rank F. Effect reduces cooldowns by 1%. For 3 seconds, I stared at it like it had personally insulted my ancestors. Then my apartment shook so hard the lamp fell off my table, shattered on the floor, and rolled under my bed like it was trying to survive without me. Outside, people were screaming. A siren wailed. Then another blue window appeared across the city skyline, so huge it covered half the morning sun. Welcome, survivors. Dungeon era initialized. First monster wave arrives in 10 minutes. Good luck. I did what any normal person would do. I grabbed a kitchen knife, put on one shoe, forgot the other, ran back for it, and slammed straight into my door because the lock was still on. By the time I got outside, the entire apartment complex had poured into the street. People were staring at their glowing system screens, some laughing, some crying, some already acting like they had been waiting their whole lives for this. A guy across the street punched the air and made flames burst from his fist. Someone else lifted a parked motorcycle with one hand. A woman in pajamas summoned a floating silver shield and started grinning like she had just won the lottery. And then there was me. Cooldown Reduction, F rank, 1%. I tried not to panic, I really did, but then a huge guy in a torn gym hoodie stomped over and looked at my screen before I could hide it. His name was Grant. I knew him because he lived 2 floors above me and treated the entire building like his personal kingdom. Grant had awakened a B-rank ability called Titan Frame. It made his muscles swell, his skin harden, and his ego triple in size. He read my ability out loud, and the people near us went quiet. Then he laughed. Not a small laugh, a full, loud, chest-shaking laugh. Cooldown Reduction, 1%. Evan, that means if my skill takes 100 seconds, you save me 1 second. More people laughed. Someone muttered that I had awakened as a walking discount coupon. Another person said I should stay in the back and count down timers. I should have felt angry. I should have shouted something dramatic. But all I could do was stare at the word cooldown. Because the system didn't say skill cooldown. It said cooldown. No restrictions, no explanation, no kindness, just one word. Cooldown. And when the world gives you a stupid-looking ability with vague wording, you either cry about it or you start looking for the loophole. I chose the loophole. The first monster wave arrived exactly 10 minutes later. The road split open at the intersection, and creatures crawled out of the ground like nightmares wearing armor made of rotten bone. They were short, fast, and ugly, with knives made from their own claws. The system called them tunnel goblins. Most people ran. Grant charged. His body expanded, his hoodie ripped, and he slammed into the first goblin like a truck. It flew through a mailbox and didn't get back up. For a second, everyone cheered. Then 20 more goblins came out. Grant activated Titan Frame again, but his body only flashed once and failed. His screen popped up beside him. Skill on cooldown, 29 seconds. That was when he glanced at me. Not because he respected me, because even a 1-second discount coupon is still a coupon when goblins are running at your face. I lifted my hand, focused on his skill, and felt something click inside my head. Cooldown Reduction activated. The timer changed. 29 seconds became 28.71 seconds. Grant stared at it. I stared at it. The goblin jumped on his back and started trying to chew his ear off. The crowd screamed. And Grant shouted, "That's it." Yeah, that was it. 1%. Absolutely pathetic. So I stopped looking at Grant. I looked at the goblins. Every monster had a rhythm. I noticed it because I was terrified enough to watch everything. The goblins attacked in bursts. 3 quick steps, a slash, a half-second pause, then another slash. Their claws glowed red right before they lunged, then the glow faded before coming back. A cooldown. I didn't know if my skill would work on monsters. I didn't know if the system would laugh at me. But one goblin was sprinting toward a kid frozen in the street, and I didn't have time to be embarrassed. I pointed at the goblin's claw glow. Cooldown Reduction. The red light came back faster. The goblin lunged earlier than it meant to. It tripped over its own front foot, slashed empty air, and face-planted into the pavement. The kid ran. I blinked. The goblin tried to recover. Its claws dimmed, then began charging again. I reduced the cooldown again. It attacked too early again. This time it slammed headfirst into a trash can. That was the first time I smiled. My power wasn't strong, but timing was strong. And if I could touch timing, I could touch the bones of the world. I started moving. Not like a hero, more like a scared guy with one useful trick and too much adrenaline. Every time a goblin prepared to attack, I reduced the cooldown on its strike just enough to make it fire too soon. They stabbed the ground. They hit walls. They cut each other. One jumped at Grant and missed so badly it landed inside an open car window. People stopped laughing. Grant kept swinging, but now his enemies were feeding themselves into his fists. A woman with the shield Riley noticed first. She was sharp-eyed, calm even with blood on her sleeve. She moved beside me and raised her shield right as 3 goblins rushed us. "Can you make them mess up again?" she asked. I didn't answer. I was too busy doing it. The 3 goblins activated their lunge skills at the same time. I reduced the first one, then the second, then the third, their timing staggered by fractions of a second. Riley shifted her shield once. The first goblin bounced off it. The second ran into the first. The third stabbed both of them. Riley looked at me like I had just pulled a coin from behind reality's ear. "Okay," she said, "that's not useless." That was the nicest thing anyone said to me that morning. The wave lasted 6 minutes. It felt like 6 years. When the final goblin fell, the system rang like a school bell. First wave cleared. Survivors will be rewarded based on contribution. Grant puffed his chest out like the system was about to crown him king. I expected nothing, maybe a thank you coupon, maybe a message saying nice try, F-rank. Instead, my screen flashed gold. Hidden contribution detected, rhythm disruption. Bonus experience awarded. Ability level up. Cooldown reduction 1%, 2%. I stared at the number. 2% still sounded terrible. But it had doubled, and I had only been awake for 1 monster wave. Grant saw the glow around me and frowned. "What did you get?" I closed the screen. "Nothing important." That was the first lie I told after the apocalypse began. It would not be the last. By noon, the city had changed. Gates appeared in the streets, huge black doors floating in the air with labels above them. E-rank dungeons, D-rank dungeons, one massive C-rank gate above the old shopping district, pulsing like a giant infected heart. The system announced that anyone who cleared dungeons would earn coins, equipment, and survival rights. Anyone who refused would be pulled into compulsory defense events. Basically fight now or fight later with worse odds. Grant immediately gathered the strongest awakened people from our block. He wanted to clear an E-rank dungeon and claim the local safe zone. He didn't invite me. Riley did. She found me sitting on the curb, cleaning goblin blood off my kitchen knife with a napkin. "You coming?" she asked. "Grant doesn't want me." Grant wants mirrors and applause. I want someone who can make monsters trip over their own teeth. That was how I joined my first dungeon team. There were 5 of us who mattered after that. Me with my pathetic F-rank loophole. Riley with a shield that could block almost anything if she timed it right. Grant with muscles, power, and the emotional control of a kicked vending machine. Ava a quiet healer whose hands glowed green and whose healing skill took 5 long minutes to recharge. Nora a system analyst with an ability called Map Thread. She could see dungeon layouts, trap lines, and hidden paths, but only in broken fragments. 5 names, 5 survivors, 1 city full of people waiting for someone else to be brave first. The E-rank dungeon opened inside a subway station. The moment we stepped through the gate, the city vanished. We stood on a stone platform above black water, rusted rails stretched into darkness. Lanterns flickered along the walls, each one blinking in a pattern that made my skin crawl. Nora narrowed her eyes. Trap corridor ahead, pressure plates, spike cycle every 12 seconds. Grant snorted, "So we wait, then run." He waited for the spikes to shoot from the walls. They did. Then they retracted. Grant ran. Halfway through, the lanterns blinked faster. Nora's face went pale, cycle changed. Spikes erupted early. Grant barely twisted aside. 1 spike scraped his shoulder and ripped blood across his arm. He staggered back, furious. "Your map wronged." Nora's voice shook. "No," the dungeon adjusted. Everyone looked at the corridor. I looked at the lanterns. Blink, blink, pause, blink. The spikes weren't random, they were breathing. A trap cycle was just a cooldown wearing stone clothes. I stepped closer. Riley grabbed my sleeve. "Evan. I'm not going in." I raised my hand toward the nearest lantern. Cooldown Reduction. The spike cycle accelerated by 2%. The spikes fired a fraction earlier. Then I did it again. Again. Each use shaved the trap, reset just slightly, but the dungeon had designed the corridor around a stable rhythm. I wasn't trying to make it safe. I was trying to make it confused. Spikes began firing unevenly. The left wall shot first, then the right, then the floor, then nothing, then everything at once. The mechanism groaned behind the stone. The lanterns flickered wildly. Nora's eyes widened. "You're desynchronizing the trap." "Is that good?" Ava asked. The corridor screamed. Every spike fired at the same time, jammed against every other spike, and locked in place. I smiled. "Now it is." We walked through while Grant stared at me like I had cheated at a game he thought he owned. And maybe I had. The dungeon got worse after that. A room full of skeletal rats that revived every 30 seconds. A bridge that turned invisible for 5 seconds every minute. A cursed vending machine that sold potions, but only opened once per party. Grant smashed through enemies, Riley blocked death, Ava healed wounds, Nora found paths. But I started seeing everything as a timer. Rats had resurrection cooldowns, so I reduced the cooldown on one rat's resurrection until it revived before its bones had reassembled. It came back as a twitching pile, blocking the others from forming. The invisible bridge had a visibility cooldown. I reduced it until it flickered rapidly, creating just enough flashes for us to cross by stepping only when the stone appeared. The cursed vending machine had a purchase cooldown. Everyone got one item. Then I reduced the machine's restock timer again and again until it clicked open for me a second time. I bought a cracked silver ring. Item: Ring of Minor Haste. Effect: Skill Activation Speed plus 3%. Grant saw it and pointed at me. "Why does he get extra loot?" The vending machine slammed shut like it was offended. I slipped the ring on. "Maybe it likes polite customers." Grant stepped toward me. Riley stepped between us. Ava looked away, but I saw her smile. The dungeon boss waited at the end of the subway line. It was a giant conductor made of rusted armor and black smoke, holding a lantern in one hand and a ticket puncher in the other. Its system name hovered above it. The last conductor. Rank E+. The fight began with a whistle that nearly burst my eardrums. Grant charged, Riley guarded Ava. Nora shouted warnings as ghost trains roared through the station from impossible angles. The boss had 3 phases. First, it swung its ticket puncher like a hammer. Second, it summoned ghost passengers. Third, every time its health dropped by 20%, it became invulnerable and called a train across the platform. That invulnerability phase lasted 30 seconds. 30 seconds where we couldn't hurt it. 30 seconds where it could hurt us. Grant cursed and punched uselessly at the glowing barrier. Riley blocked a ghost train, but the force drove her to one knee. Ava tried to heal her, but her heal was still on cooldown. I reduced Ava's heal cooldown by 2%. 5 minutes became 4 minutes and 54 seconds. Not enough. A ghost passenger grabbed my ankle and dragged me toward the tracks. I stabbed it with my kitchen knife. The blade snapped. So there I was, weaponless, useless on paper, and one pull away from becoming monster food. And the boss's invulnerability timer floated in front of me. 29 seconds. The old me would have tried to reduce it so the shield ended sooner. But the old me had been mocked in the street by people who thought 1% meant nothing. I had learned something since then. A cooldown is not always a delay you want to shorten. Sometimes it is a safety lock. The boss's invulnerability had a cooldown before it could trigger again. When the shield ended, the boss would be vulnerable until the next 20% health threshold. But what if I reduced the cooldown between invulnerability activations while it was still inside one? What if the boss's own phase system tried to activate again before the current phase ended? I pointed at the barrier. Cooldown Reduction. A crack appeared in the golden shield. I did it again. The boss froze. Again. The lantern in its hand flickered. Again. System error, phase cooldown conflict. The boss tried to become invulnerable while already invulnerable. The result was beautiful. Its shield folded inward like a crushed can. The ghost train it had summoned slammed into its own barrier, bounced back, and hit the boss instead. The last conductor flew across the platform and smashed into a pillar. Grant stared. Riley stared. Even the ghost passengers stared, which felt rude because they were dead. The boss's health dropped from 60% to 22%. Grant shouted and charged again, but I wasn't done. The boss began entering its rage phase. Its armor turned red. The lantern burned blue. Nora shouted that the rage phase would triple its attack speed. Grant grinned, finally, a real fight. I saw another timer. Rage phase cooldown, 180 seconds. The boss could rage only once every 3 minutes. That sounded like a limitation. I saw a self-destruct button. I reduced the rage phase cooldown. Then again. And again. 2% at a time wasn't much, but the boss had already been damaged by a phase error. Its system was unstable. Every reduction made the rage trigger faster, harder, sloppier. The boss roared. Rage activated. Then rage activated again. Then again. Its red armor brightened, then darkened, then brightened again. Its attack speed jumped, then jumped again until its arms blurred. Grant stepped back. Why is it doing that? Because it has anger issues, I said. The boss swung so fast its own arm tore off. Then it tried to summon ghost passengers, so quickly they spawned inside each other and exploded into smoke. Then it called 3 trains at once. All of them hit the boss. The last conductor collapsed in a pile of rust, smoke, and bad scheduling. Dungeon cleared. Contribution rankings. 1 Evans. For a moment, nobody spoke. Grant's face turned the exact color of the boss's rage phase. Then the rewards appeared. I received coins, a skill book, and a title. Title acquired, Timing's Thief. Effect when interacting with cooldowns, perception speed increases. Ability level up. Cooldown reduction, 2%, 5%. 5%. Still small. But now I could feel timers like heartbeats in the walls. When we left the dungeon, the subway gate shattered behind us, and a safe zone expanded across 3 city blocks. People cheered for Grant at first because he was big, bloody, and easy to understand. Then the system displayed the contribution ranking above the station. My name sat at the top. The cheering became confused. Grant walked past me and muttered, "Enjoy your lucky trick while it lasts." I watched the safe zone barrier ripple above us. A massive timer hovered at its edge. Safe zone expansion cooldown, 24 hours. I smiled. Luck had a cooldown too. And I was starting to reduce it. By the 3rd day, everyone wanted something from me. At first, they wanted small things. Make Riley's shield bash come back faster. Make Ava's heal recharge sooner. Make the water purifier in the safe zone reset before sunset. Make the gate scanner refresh so Nora could check the next dungeon without waiting. Every request came with the same look. The look people give a tool they used to call trash. I accepted most of them. Not because I was nice. Because every use trained my ability. Cooldown reduction was like a muscle. The more I used it, the more I felt the difference between a skill cooldown, a trap cooldown, a monster cooldown, a system cooldown, and something deeper. The world had rules, but the rules had refresh rates. And refresh rates could be pushed. Nora helped me test it. She was the first person who treated my ability like a puzzle instead of a joke. She drew maps on cracked concrete using charcoal, listing everything with a timer. Monster attack cycles. Dungeon entry lockouts. Treasure chest respawns. Quest board refreshes. Safe zone events. System announcements. One evening, while Grant trained people by making them punch walls, Nora and I stood in front of the safe zone quest board. The board refreshed once every 6 hours. Everyone checked it constantly because quests meant food, medicine, and coins. At 6:00 p.m., 5 quests appeared. At 6:02 p.m., every good quest was gone. Nora tapped the board. Refresh cooldown is 5 hours and 58 minutes. Can you reduce it? I can reduce anything with a cooldown. Can you control who sees the refresh? That was a better question. I placed my hand on the board. The timer pulsed beneath my palm like a slow animal. Cooldown reduction. The timer shaved down by 5%. Not enough. Again. I now repeated use on the same target caused resistance. The system didn't like being poked, but the board was alive and I was very annoying. The timer dropped from nearly 6 hours to 5 hours, then 4.5, then 4. My head started pounding. Nora leaned close. Stop if it hurts. That's something people with normal abilities say. At 3 hours, the board flickered. A hidden panel appeared for less than a second. Nora gasped there. What was that? Hidden quests. The board has a secret refresh layer. A secret cooldown behind the normal cooldown. I nearly laughed. The system had drawers. And I had sticky fingers. I focused past the public quest timer, deeper into the board. There it was, a hidden shop refresh, locked behind a 24-hour cycle, and visible only during a 1-second overlap when both timers aligned. To everyone else, it might appear once a day by accident. To me, it was a doorbell. I reduced the hidden shop cooldown. The board flashed black. Hidden shop available. Nora grabbed my sleeve, buy fast. A list appeared. Most items were too expensive. Weapons, armor, potions, skill books. Then I saw one item with a cracked hourglass icon. Item second-hand glove. Effect touch-based timer sensitivity plus 20%. Price exactly all your coins. The system had a sense of humor. I bought it. My balance hit 0. A gray glove appeared on my right hand, stitched with tiny silver lines that moved like clock hands. The hidden shop vanished. Seconds later, Grant marched over with 2 of his followers. What did you just do? Shopping. The board doesn't refresh for hours. Maybe it likes polite customers too. Grant grabbed my collar. Riley's shield appeared between us, so fast the air cracked. Ava stepped behind her, hands glowing faint green. Nora didn't move. She just looked at Grant and said, touch him and you lose access to every accelerated heal, every dungeon trap bypass, and every quest refresh advantage he provides. Grant's fingers tightened. Then released. That was the first time I understood power didn't always look like a sword. Sometimes power looked like making the strongest guy in the room realize he needed you more than you needed him. The next major dungeon was D rank. It opened at the mall. Of course it did. Because nothing says apocalypse like fighting for your life between a broken pretzel stand and a fountain full of glowing teeth. The system called it the Mall of Returning Hunger. Entry limit 10. Recommended average rank C. Our safe zone had no C ranks. Grant argued we should wait. Then the dungeon timer appeared. Monster overflow in 6 hours. If we didn't clear it, the monsters inside would spill into the safe zone. Waiting was just losing with extra steps. We entered with our main 5 and 5 unnamed fighters who were brave enough, desperate enough, or unlucky enough to follow Grant. Inside, the mall was endless. Escalators ran upward into darkness, storefronts breathed, mannequins turned their heads when we weren't looking, the food court smelled like sugar, blood, and old grease. Nora's map flickered wildly. This dungeon resets rooms, she said. Every 10 minutes the layout changes. Grant cracked his knuckles, then we moved fast. I looked at the nearest directory sign. Layout shuffle cooldown 10 minutes. Fast was good. Faster was better. But fastest wasn't always best. The first wave of mannequins attacked outside a fake clothing store. Their plastic bodies moved in jerks, each one freezing after 3 attacks before resetting its joints. Grant smashed them easily. Too easily. Because every time one broke, the store window behind it lit up. Restock cooldown 60 seconds. A minute later, more mannequins stepped out wearing better armor. Ava whispered they upgrade when they respawn. Grant punched one so hard its head spun away like a bowling ball. Then we break the store. He charged the window. I saw the trap 1 heartbeat before it happened. The display lights had a reflection cooldown. Every 60 seconds, the window became a mirror and copied the strongest attacker. Grant hit the glass. His reflection hit back. A copy of Grant stepped out of the storefront, made of plastic muscle and mall lighting. The real Grant flew through a bench. For one tiny, terrible second, I wanted to laugh. Then the copy turned toward us. Its Titan frame activated. Riley blocked the first punch and skidded 20 feet. Ava's heel was still on cooldown. Nora shouted that the store would produce another copy in 60 seconds. I raised my gloved hand. A normal person would reduce Ava's heel. A decent person would help Riley block. A heroic person would try to weaken the copy. I was not feeling normal, decent, or heroic. I looked at the mirror window. Copy reflection cooldown 58 seconds. I reduced it. The window shimmered. Again. It shimmered harder. Again. Nora caught on, Evan, that will make it copy again. Exactly. The mirror activated early. It copied the strongest attacker in range. The plastic Grant had just punched Riley so hard the floor cracked. So the mirror copied him. A second plastic Grant stepped out. Then I reduced the cooldown again. A third stepped out. The real Grant staggered to his feet. Are you insane? Only mathematically. The three copies identified the strongest nearby threat. Each other. They attacked. The clothing store became a thunderstorm of plastic fists. Shelves exploded. Glass shattered. The copies beat each other through the walls while we quietly backed away. After 30 seconds, all three fake Grants collapsed into broken mannequin parts. The mirror window cracked from overload. I tapped it once. The store exploded into coins. Grant limped over, bleeding from his lip. You used my copy as bait. No, I said, I used your ego as bait. The copy was just a bonus. Riley coughed like she was hiding a laugh. Grant did not appreciate the teamwork. The mall kept trying to kill us with customer service. A perfume shop released charm mist every 2 minutes. I reduced the mist cooldown until it sprayed constantly, emptying its tanks before we entered. An arcade forced anyone who touched a machine to play until they won. I reduced the prize cooldown on a claw machine until it spat out enough metal toys to jam every cursed cabinet in the room. A shoe store had a speed trap that made the floor move faster every time someone stepped wrong. I reduced the floor's reset cooldown until it returned to normal so often it couldn't accelerate. Every room had a rule. Every rule had timing. Every timing could be bullet. By the time we reached the center atrium, my ability leveled again. Cooldown reduction 5%, 8%. My glove warmed around my hand. 8% didn't sound world-breaking. But with perception speed, timer sensitivity, and a brain trained by panic, it felt like I was walking through a world made of loose screws. The boss descended from the ceiling in the glass elevator. It looked like a giant mall security guard with 4 arms, a head made of camera lenses, and a name tag that simply read manager. The returning manager. Rank D+. The boss had the worst ability I had seen so far. Every time we damaged it, it issued a receipt. Every receipt recorded the damage type. After 30 seconds, the boss became resistant to anything listed on its receipts. Punches, fire, shield bash, healing light backlash, everything. Grant hit it once and did solid damage. 30 seconds later, his punches barely scratched it. Riley bashed it with her shield. 30 seconds later, her shield bounced off. Ava used healing light on its corrupted armor, burning it. 30 seconds later, the light fizzled. The longer we fought, the fewer options we had. Nora's map showed a checkout counter at the center of the atrium. That's the core, she said. Destroy it and the boss loses its resistance cycle. The counter was behind the boss. Protected by shutters. Shutters with a customer service cooldown. Open window, 5 seconds every 90 seconds. Grant wanted to brute force the shutters. I stopped him. Hit the boss with everything weak. He stared at me, what? Throw trash, kick it, spit at it if you want, make receipts. Grant looked ready to punch me instead. Riley understood first. She threw a broken shoe at the boss. A receipt printed. Damage type footwear. Ava tossed a coin. Damage type currency. Nora flicked charcoal. Damage type office supply. I grabbed a pretzel sign and smacked its ankle. Damage type advertising. Grant, still furious, picked up a bench and threw it. Damage type furniture. The returning manager's receipt printer went wild. It started building resistance to everything stupid. That was step 1. Step 2 was making it process refunds. Every receipt had a return window. Return cooldown 30 seconds. Once a damage type became resisted, it locked in, but before that there was a tiny window where the system was deciding whether to accept the receipt. I reduced the return cooldown on every useless receipt. The boss began applying resistance early. Too early. Footwear resistance activated while the shoe was still bouncing off. Currency resistance activated before the coin hit the floor. Advertising resistance activated while I was still holding the sign. The boss's system filled with junk resistances. Then Grant hit it with Titan frame. No receipt printed. The printer was jammed. His punch cracked the boss's chest. Riley bashed its knee. Ava burned its camera head. Nora shouted the shutter timer. Open window in 12 seconds. I reduced the shutter cooldown. The window opened early. Grant lunged. The boss grabbed him. Of course it did. The returning manager's forearms clamped around Grant and lifted him toward its camera face. A red beam charged. Employee termination cooldown, ready. I couldn't reduce Grant's escape fast enough. Ava's heal wasn't enough. Riley couldn't reach. So I did the only thing worse than a bad idea. I made the boss use its strongest attack too often. Cooldown reduction. The red beam fired early. Grant twisted because Riley slammed her shield into his back, launching him sideways. The beam missed him and hit the checkout core. The core cracked. The boss froze. I reduced the termination cooldown again. The boss fired again. The core shattered. All receipts burst into flame. The returning manager lost every resistance at once. Grant landed on his feet, roared, and punched through the boss's chest. Riley slammed the shield into its head. Ava burned it from the inside. Nora kicked the cracked core for moral support. And I tapped the boss's receipt printer. Your return window has expired. The boss exploded into coupons, coins, and one glowing black card. Dungeon cleared. Contribution rankings. 1 Evans. 2 Grant. 3 Riley. 4 Ava. 5 Nora. Grant didn't speak for almost an hour. It was one of the best rewards I got. The black card became mine. Item priority pass. Effect once per day, access a shop or system service 1 cycle early. My ability leveled again. Cooldown reduction 8%, 12%. And something new appeared under it. Secondary effect unlocked, cooldown stacking. Repeated applications on same target have reduced resistance. Nora read the description and went very still. Evan, she said quietly, this is not an F-rank ability anymore. I looked at the shattered mall, the broken boss, the floating rewards, and Grant pretending not to hear. No, I said, it never was. By the end of the first week, our safe zone had become a fortress. Not because we were the strongest. Because I made waiting expensive for everyone except us. Quest board refreshes happened early when I was nearby. Water purification reset before other zones ran dry. Barrier repair cycles triggered after every monster scratch. Training dummy cooldowns reset fast enough for people to practice skills 10 times more than normal. Other safe zones noticed. At first they sent polite messages. Then offers. Then threats disguised as offers. The worst came from the Central District. It had a council of high-ranked awakened and enough weapons to make everyone nervous. Their message appeared on our safe zone board at midnight. Transfer support awakened Evan to Central Authority for optimal resource use. Compensation, food supply, medicine, protection. Non-compliance will result in trade restrictions. Grant read it and smirked. Maybe we should send you. They can use your 1% better than we can. It's 12 now. Still support. I looked at Riley. She looked ready to punch the board. Ava looked worried. Nora looked thoughtful, which was always more dangerous. We can't fight Central District, Ava said. Grant folded his arms. We could if we had real power. I stepped closer to the board. The message had a reply cooldown. Central Authority demand response window, 12 hours. There it was again. A system-enforced social timer. I smiled. They gave us 12 hours to answer. Riley frowned and... So let's answer immediately. I reduced the response window cooldown until the board flashed. Response required now. A text field opened. Everyone stared at me. Nora said, careful, official system messages have legal weight. Good. I typed one sentence. Evan accepts temporary transfer to Central Authority for evaluation, arrival pending safe transfer cooldown. Grant looked at me like I had lost my mind. Ava whispered, you're leaving. No. I pointed at the last phrase. Safe transfer cooldown generated. The system loved formal processes. If I accepted a transfer, it created a safe transfer event. Safe transfer events had cooldowns. Cooldowns could be reduced. Or targeted. I opened the transfer details. Safe transfer arrival window, 48 hours. Escort assignment cooldown 6 hours. Transfer cancellation cooldown 72 hours. Authority claim lockout after failed transfer 30 days. Nora's eyes widened. If the transfer fails, they can't demand you again for a month. Exactly. Riley smiled slowly, and you can make it fail. I reduced the escort assignment cooldown. Central District System had to assign escorts immediately. But it was midnight. Their eligible escorts were currently inside a dungeon because Nora had tracked their public raid schedule through system notices. The assignment failed. I reduced it again. It failed again. Again. 5 failed assignments triggered a system review. Safe transfer unable to meet protection standards. Transfer failed. Authority claim lockout 30 days. The Central District message vanished. Our board printed a compensation package for failed transfer inconvenience. Food, medicine, coins. Grant stared at the supplies as they appeared in crates. You robbed them through paperwork. No, I said, they filed the paperwork. I just made it impatient. That night, people cheered for me without confusion. Grant didn't. His pride had been taking damage for a week, and unlike the boss in the mall, he didn't print receipts. He waited until the next dungeon. The third dungeon was different. It didn't open as a gate. It fell from the sky. Black Tower slammed into the center of the city at dawn, sending a shockwave across every safe zone. Its top disappeared into the clouds. Every floor rotated slowly, each one covered in glowing symbols. A system announcement rolled across the sky. Regional Trial Tower has appeared. First clear reward, Zone Lord Authority. Time until disaster cycle begins, 72 hours. Zone Lord Authority meant control over barriers, resources, and defense priorities for the whole region. Central District wanted it. Every strong team wanted it. Grant wanted it so badly, I could almost hear his teeth grinding. He entered with the main 5. The tower allowed only official party members, and after them all clear, even Grant couldn't argue I didn't belong. The first floor was a speed trial. 100 doors, 1 correct exit. Wrong doors summoned monsters and locked for 5 minutes. Nora's map showed fragments, but the tower scrambled her vision. Grant kicked open a door. Wrong. Monsters poured out. Riley blocked, Ava healed, Grant fought. I watched the doors. Every wrong door had a lockout cooldown. Every correct door had none. I didn't need to find the right door. I needed to make the wrong doors reveal themselves. I walked down the hall and touched each door with my glove. If a cooldown pulsed behind it, wrong. If nothing pulsed, maybe right. By the 23rd door, I felt silence. This one. Grant shoved past me, finally. He opened it. Correct. We cleared floor 1 in 12 minutes. The tower record was 40. Floor 2 was a punishment arena. Every time someone used a skill, a punishment bolt struck them after a 10-second delay. The stronger the skill, the stronger the bolt. Grant hated it immediately. His whole personality was using skills and accepting consequences later. The first time he activated Titan Frame, a red mark appeared above him. Punishment delay 10 seconds. He braced himself. I reduced the punishment delay. The bolt struck in 9 seconds. Grant screamed, "Why would you do that?" "Because you were ready at 10. He glared. The second time I reduced it to 8. He was not ready. The third time I reduced it to 6. He got blasted into a wall. Riley grabbed my shoulder. "Evan. He has to stop relying on it." Grant staggered up, furious. "You're sabotaging me." "No, the tower is. I'm making it obvious before it kills you." He almost charged me. Then the arena spawned mirror knights that copied any skill used against them. Grant raised his fist, then lowered it. For the first time, he fought without Titan Frame. Messy, angry, but careful. Riley led with shield timing. Ava saved heals for real injuries. Nora marked safe spots. I reduced the mirror knights' counterattack cooldowns until they swung too early, then used punishment bolts against them by making their copied skills trigger before their bodies finished copying. The arena collapsed. Floor cleared. Grant didn't thank me, but he didn't call me useless either. Floor 3 was the first time the tower tried to kill me personally. It separated us. 1 second I was walking beside Riley. The next, I stood alone in a circular room full of clocks. No monsters. No exits. Just ticking. A system window appeared. Solo trial, support without allies. Objective, survive until rescue. Rescue door opens in 30 minutes. I left. I couldn't help it. The tower had looked at my ability, decided I needed allies to be useful, and put me in a room with 30 minutes of cooldown. That was not a prison. That was a buffet. I touched the rescue door. Cooldown reduction. 30 minutes dropped by 12%. Again. Stacking resistance reduced less now. My glove helped me feel the exact angle to push without wasting effort. The timer fell to 20 minutes. Then 15. Then 12. The room reacted. Clock hands flew off the walls like knives. I ducked behind a stone pedestal and reduced the knives, returned cooldowns so they snapped back to the clocks too early, colliding with the next wave. The tower spawned clockwork wolves. I reduced their bite cooldowns until they bit before closing distance, snapping at empty air. Then I reduced their self-repair cooldowns while they were still moving, forcing gears to rebuild in the wrong positions. They limped, spun, and crashed into walls. The rescue door timer hit 5 minutes. The tower changed the rules. Objective updated, survive until rescue. Rescue door locked until all allies clear their trials. So that was the trick. My timer was fake. The real cooldown was party synchronization. I closed my eyes. With the second-hand glove and the timing thief title, I could feel faint pulses beyond the room. Riley's shield cooldown, Ava's heal, Nora's map refresh, Grant's Titan frame. They were alive. They were fighting. And each room had a rescue condition cooldown. I couldn't see the rooms, but I could feel the timers. I started reducing the longest ones. Ava's trial had a heal lockout. I reduced the lockout until her healing returned early. Riley's trial had a shield durability recharge. I reduced it until her shield restored faster than the enemies could crack it. Nora's map refresh came back again and again, probably confusing her but keeping her alive. Grant's Titan frame cooldown pulsed hard, tempting. I almost reduced it. Then I remembered floor 2. Grant didn't need his skill faster. He needed the enemy rhythm broken. So I searched for the hostile cooldowns around him. Something huge, something heavy, a smash cycle. I reduced that instead. The enemy in Grant's room attacked too early. A distant crash shook my walls. A system alert flashed. Ally Grant has cleared solo trial. Then Riley. Then Ava. Then Nora. My rescue door opened. But before I stepped through, a hidden clock on the ceiling opened its eye. Secret trial condition met. Support effect applied across separated spaces. Reward cooldown range extension. Ability level up. Cooldown reduction 12%, 18%. The door pulled me back to the party. Riley looked relieved. Ava hugged me so hard my ribs complained. Nora immediately started asking what I had felt, how far it reached, whether walls mattered, whether ownership mattered. Grant stood apart, bruised and silent. Finally, he said, "The monster in my room missed because of you." Yes. He looked away. Fine. Coming from Grant, that was practically poetry. The higher floors blurred into madness. A library where every book had a reading cooldown, so I reduced forbidden knowledge refreshes until the shelves started spoiling future chapters. Kitchen where ingredients respawned as monsters, so I accelerated the oven cooldown until the whole floor became a pressure cooker and steamed the boss dumpling alive. A courtroom where accusations became chains, so I reduced the judge's verdict cooldown until it sentenced itself for contempt. Each floor taught me something. Cooldowns weren't only timers. They were permissions. A thing could happen only after the world agreed, enough time had passed. I was becoming very good at making the world agree too soon. On floor 7, we met the Central District team. They had entered before us, stronger on paper, better equipped, and completely trapped. The floor was a maze of glass bridges over a void. Every bridge appeared for 10 seconds, vanished for 10 seconds, then reappeared somewhere else. The Central team had lost half its members and refused to move. Their leader, an arrogant high-ranker whose name I never bothered learning, demanded we help them cross. Grant looked like he wanted to say no. Riley said we couldn't leave people to die. I looked at the bridge network and saw the real problem. Bridge appearance cooldowns were linked. If I reduced one, the others adjusted. The tower wanted us to coordinate. So I did the opposite. I desynchronized everything. One bridge appeared early. Another vanished early. A third flickered rapidly. The central team panicked. Nora grabbed my arm. You're making it worse. For them. I pointed at the pattern forming in front of us. By breaking the global rhythm, I created a local path where bridges appeared in a chain from our side to the exit. Not stable, not safe, but predictable to me. Step when I say. Riley went first, trusting me without hesitation. Ava followed. Nora next. Grant hesitated for one beat, then stepped. The central team shouted for us to wait. I shouted back, you can follow my calls, or you can keep arguing with gravity. They followed. Barely. One slipped and Riley caught him with her shield strap. Another froze and Grant threw him onto the next bridge like luggage. We reached the exit with everyone alive. The central leader tried to claim he had coordinated the crossing. The tower displayed contribution. 1 Evans. The central leader stopped talking. I enjoyed that more than I should have. At floor 10, the tower offered us a rest chamber. A fountain restored health every hour, a shop opened every 3 hours, a training room reset every 6. Everyone collapsed, exhausted. I stayed awake. Nora found me by the fountain, reducing its restore cooldown while pretending not to sway on my feet. You need rest too, she said. I'll rest after the tower stops trying to become our landlord. She sat beside me. You know Grant is scared of you now. Grant is scared of mirrors that don't flatter him. I'm serious. I looked at the fountain. Its water glowed, emptied, refilled. Everyone laughed when my screen said F-rank. Now they look at me like I'm cheating. You are cheating. I turned. Nora shrugged, but the world started it. That made me laugh. For a few seconds, the apocalypse felt far away. Then the tower shook. Rest chamber cooldown violation detected. Penalty event initiated. The fountain water turned black. The shop shutters slammed open. The training dummies twisted into executioners. Grant woke up swinging. Riley raised her shield. Ava rolled behind the fountain. Nora cursed. I stared at the penalty timer. Penalty event duration, 10 minutes. A normal person would reduce the duration. But penalty events had reward calculations. The longer and harsher the penalty, the better the reward if survived. The event was designed to punish greedy cooldown abuse. Unfortunately for the tower, I was greedy and petty. I reduced the executioners' attack cooldowns until they attacked too fast to aim. I reduced the shop shutters' open-close cooldown until they chomped down on monsters like metal jaws. I reduced the fountain corruption pulse until it pumped all its poison into the room in one blast, then ran clean. Then I reduced the penalty event wave cooldown. More enemies spawned. Grant shouted, "Why are you making more?" Bonus rewards. We could die. That would reduce our reward quality. He looked like he couldn't decide whether to strangle me or respect me. Riley laughed mid-block, which made Ava laugh, which made Nora shake her head, and suddenly we weren't surviving a punishment. We were farming it. The tower sent wave after wave. I turned every cooldown against it. The training room reset so fast its own floor traps hit the enemies. The shop restocked explosive junk items, which Grant threw by the armful. Ava's heals came back faster as my level rose from constant use. At the end of 10 minutes, the chamber looked like a war crime committed by a department store. Penalty event cleared. Reward multiplier maximum. Ability level up. Cooldown reduction 18%, 25%. New effect partial cooldown redirection. I read the description twice. Partial cooldown redirection. When reducing a cooldown, you may transfer a portion of the removed time into another compatible cooldown. Nora whispered, "That's impossible." I flexed my gloved fingers. No, it's accounting. And if there was one thing the system feared, it was bad accounting. The tower's final floor opened under a red sky. We stood on a circular platform above the whole city. Every safe zone was visible below, glowing like small islands in a sea of monsters. At the center of the platform sat a throne made of black stone. Above it floated the final boss. Not a beast. Not a knight. A clock-faced angel with 6 wings made of broken system windows. The regional administrator. Rank C+. Its voice entered my head without sound. Order requires intervals. Intervals require obedience. Obedience requires delay. Grant cracked his neck. I hated already. The fight started with every skill in our party going on cooldown. All of them. Riley's shield. Ava's heal. Nora's map. Grant's Titan frame. Even my cooldown reduction. A black timer appeared on my screen. Ability lockout, 60 seconds. For the first time since awakening, I felt empty. No pulses, no rhythms, no handles on reality. Just me. The same guy who had grabbed a kitchen knife and forgotten one shoe. The administrator lifted one hand, and a rain of clock spears formed overhead. Riley tried to summon her shield, nothing. Grant tried to transform, nothing. Ava tried to heal preemptively, nothing. Nora's map stayed dark. 60 seconds. We would be dead in 10. So I did something stupid. I ran toward the boss. Not because I could punch it. Because lockout was not silence. My ability was on cooldown, yes. But the cooldown itself had a cooldown. I couldn't reduce it from the inside. But the second-hand glove had an item effect, not a skill. Timer sensitivity. I couldn't push the timer. But I could feel it. The administrator's lockout was a global effect. It had applied to us through 6 separate chains, one for each skill, one for each person, one for every permission denied. Chains had anchors. I reached the boss and slapped my gloved hand onto its floating robe. The clock spears fell. Riley tackled Ava. Grant grabbed Nora and rolled. A spear pierced my shoulder. Pain turned the world white. But my hand stayed on the boss. I felt the anchor. The lockout was not a cooldown. It was an imposed delay waiting to expire. And imposed delays had compatibility with cooldowns. My new redirection effect was locked, but its passive structure remained. The system had not fully sealed what it didn't understand. I could not reduce the 60 seconds. But I could redirect the pressure of it. Just a sliver. I shoved 1 second of my lockout into the administrator's next attack cooldown. The boss twitched. My ability timer dropped to 59. Its attack timer increased by 1. Not reduction. The opposite. I laughed through blood. You forgot something. The administrator tilted its clock face. I shoved another second. Then another. Each transfer hurt like dragging wire through my veins. I wasn't using the skill. I was abusing the shape it left behind. My lockout dropped. The boss's attack slowed. Riley saw the spears hanging in the air longer than they should. Evans buying time. Grant charged without a skill and slammed his shoulder into one of the boss's legs. It barely moved, but he did it again. Ava tore the spear from my shoulder when her healing returned at 40 seconds instead of 60. Nora's map flickered at 35. Riley's shield sparked at 30. Grant's Titan frame roared back at 20. And my cooldown reduction returned at 18. The moment it did, the world became music again. I heard every timer on the platform. Clock spear cooldown. Wing barrier cooldown. Judgment pulse cooldown. Skill lockout cooldown. Phase reset cooldown. Throne authority cooldown. The administrator had tried to make us wait. Now I had every second it owned in my hand. Cooldown reduction. The boss's wing barrier came back too soon, before its wings opened. The barrier formed inside its own body and cracked 2 wings. Cooldown reduction. Judgment pulse fired before charging, blasting backward through its halo. Cooldown reduction. Clock spears refreshed while the first wave still hovered, causing new spears to occupy the same space. Metal screamed, time folded, the spears shattered into fragments. Grant, fully transformed, leaped through the debris and punched the boss in the face. Riley's shield bashed its wing joint. Ava burned the wound with healing light. Nora shouted, "Throne is the core." Of course it was. Zone Lord Authority sat in the throne. The boss was just the administrator guarding the chair. But the throne had an activation cooldown. Zone Lord claim cooldown, available after boss defeat. That was rude. I reduced it. The throne flickered. System warning, claim condition unmet. I reduced it again. The throne began accepting input early. The administrator shrieked without a mouth. The boss abandoned everyone else and flew straight at me. Grant tried to intercept, a wing knocked him away. Riley blocked a strike and her shield cracked. Ava's heel went on cooldown. Nora shouted my name. I ran for the throne. The boss was faster, so I didn't slow it. I reduced its dash cooldown. It dashed again before finishing the first dash. Its body jerked forward, overshot me, and smashed face first into the throne. The throne cracked. Zone Lord Claim interface open. A system panel appeared. Claimant Evan. Authority transfer requires 60 seconds. The boss rose behind me. A 60-second channel. A boss that wanted me dead. An entire city watching from below. Classic. I placed my hand on the throne and began claiming. The administrator attacked. Riley blocked until her shield broke. Grant punched until his knuckles bled. Ava healed whoever was closest to dying. Nora used her map to call out every safe step. I reduced my claim cooldown. 60 seconds became 45. Then 34. Resistance built. The boss raised all 6 broken wings. Final judgment cooldown 10 seconds. The attack would erase the platform. I could reduce it and make it happen sooner, but that would kill us. I could try to redirect time into it, but my body was already shaking. Then I saw the disaster cycle timer in the sky. Time until disaster cycle begins, 68 hours. A massive regional cooldown. Compatible with apocalypse events. Ridiculous. Stupid. Perfect. I redirected the time I shaved from my claim into the disaster cycle. The regional disaster delayed by seconds. My claim shortened. The boss's final judgment continued charging. 10, 9, 8. I reduced the throne claim again and redirected the removed time upward into the disaster cycle. 7, 6. The city sky flashed as the disaster timer increased. 5, 4. Claim at 8 seconds. 3. Grant grabbed one wing and pulled. 2. Riley's shield broken, threw the broken handle into the boss's clock face. 1. Ava burned her heel early because I reduced it, not on a person, but on the wound in the boss's cracked halo. 0. Final judgment fired. The throne claim completed. Zone Lord authority acquired. The platform barrier activated around my party, using the regional authority's emergency defense cooldown. The judgment blast hit the barrier and split around us, pouring into the sky like a sunrise made of knives. The administrator froze. Its authority had been transferred while it was still alive. It was now an employee without admin access. I stood from the throne, bleeding, shaking, and smiling. You're on cooldown. Then I activated the regional defense system. Barrier pulse. Cooldown reduction. Barrier pulse again. Cooldown reduction. Again. Again. Each pulse hammered the administrator, stripping its wings, cracking its halo, breaking its clock face piece by piece. Grant delivered the final punch. The boss shattered into a storm of blue windows. Trial tower cleared. First clear reward distributed. Zone Lord Evan. Across the city, every safe zone screen displayed my name. The same people who laughed at F rank now stood under barriers controlled by me. The Central District sent a demand for authority review within minutes. I reduced their request processing cooldown until the system rejected it for spam. Nora laughed so hard she had to sit down. Grant looked at the city, then at me. For once, he didn't look angry. He looked tired. You climbed over everyone with a support skill. I sat on the throne because my legs were done pretending. No, I climbed over everyone with fine print. For 2 days, we became legends. The safe zones stabilized. Food distribution improved. Dungeon overflow warnings were delayed or prevented. I used regional authority and cooldown reduction together to make barriers heal faster, shops refresh smarter, and emergency quests appear before disasters instead of after them. People started calling me the Clock Lord. I hated it. Riley loved it. Ava said it sounded better than discount coupon. Nora started keeping a notebook titled things Evan should not try unless we are already dying. Grant pretended not to read it. But power attracts attention. Not human attention. System attention. On the third night after the tower clear, while everyone slept inside the expanded safe zone, I woke to a sound no one else heard. Tick. Just one tick. I opened my eyes. Every timer in the city had stopped. Barrier cooldowns. Shop refreshes. Quest boards. Monster respawns. Even Ava's heal timer, visible faintly through party status, remained frozen at 2 minutes and 13 seconds. The world was holding its breath. A black window appeared above my bed. Unauthorized interference detected. Regional administrator defeated through timing exploit. Escalation approved. A second line appeared. Global patch deployment in 24 hours. Patch content cooldown interaction limiters. My blood went cold. The system was updating. Because of me. And updates had deployment cooldowns. I reached toward the window. My glove sparked. For the first time, the timer pulled away from me like it was alive. Access denied. Patch timer protected by higher authority. Then another message appeared. Optional evolution trial available. Ability cooldown reduction. Current classification F rank anomaly. Evolution path temporal saboteur. Entry cooldown 30 days. I sat there in the dark, staring at those words. 30 days. The patch arrived in 24 hours. The trial that might help me stop it opened in 30 days. A normal person would panic. I smiled, because the system had made one fatal mistake. It called the trial optional. Optional content had scheduling rules. Scheduling rules had cooldowns. And even if the entry cooldown was protected, the reminder was. But before I could even think about touching that evolution trial, the city screamed again. Not a normal scream. A system scream. Every window in the air shattered into static. Every timer over every person's head flickered red. The dungeon gates around the skyline began blinking in the same rhythm, like the entire city had become one giant bomb. Regional event warning. Clockful parade has begun. Survive 5 waves. Wave 1 arrives in 10 minutes. At first I thought it was just another monster wave. Terrifying, sure, but simple. Kill things, don't die. Let the high-rank fighters take the front while people like me hid behind cracked concrete and pretended our support abilities mattered. Then Nora's face went pale. And when Nora went pale, it meant the problem was no longer sharp teeth and claws. It meant numbers were doing something illegal. She shoved her cracked tablet in front of me. The map of the city had become a clock face. 12 gates, 12 districts, 12 monster paths, all rotating around the central tower. The monsters were not just attacking. They were arriving on schedule. Every wave had a route. Every route had a pause. Every pause lined up with safe zone openings, healer recovery windows, ammo restocks, barrier resets, and evacuation traffic lights. The apocalypse had choreography. And the worst part was, the system had designed it so the strong players would always arrive 2 minutes late. Riley grinned like that was her favorite kind of problem. Grant cracked his knuckles like he could punch math. Ava looked at the evacuation shelters and immediately started calculating how many people would be bleeding by sunset. I looked at the parade timer. Wave 1 arrives in 9 minutes 41 seconds. Cooldown reduction pulsed in my chest. I had learned by then that my power was not really about making skills faster. That was just the cardboard box the system had thrown it in so everyone would laugh and move on. My ability touched waiting. Anything that had to wait could be pressured. Anything that moved in rhythm could be ruined. And this event was nothing but rhythm. First wave came from the northern gate, a river of clockwork dogs with brass ribs, steel fangs, and second hands spinning inside their mouths. Their attack pattern was simple. Charge for 8 seconds, pause for 2 seconds, vent steam, charge again. The top guilds rushed forward, shields up, fireballs ready, big heroic poses everywhere. They were ready for the charge. They were not ready for me to reduce the dogs, vent cooldown. The first dog charged, stopped, vented steam, and instantly vented again, then again, then again. It froze in place, choking on its own pressure. The next 10 crashed into it. The next 100 crashed into them. A wave that was supposed to trample 3 blocks turned into a pileup, so stupid-looking that Riley actually laughed while sprinting across a bus roof. Then I reduced the cooldown on their self-correction routine. Every dog tried to stand, recalibrate, and choose a target at the same time. Which meant every dog kept changing targets. One locked onto Grant, then Riley, then a street lamp, then its own tail, then a mailbox, then me. For half a second, I saw 500 red eyes spin toward my face. That was the part where I regretted being clever. Then Ava threw a barrier over me just as the dogs charged. The barrier should have lasted 3 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. With my boost, she had been using it every 22 seconds. But I had another idea. I reduced the cooldown of the barrier's expiration. Ava shouted because the shield disappeared early. The dogs lunged through the space where it had been. Then I reduced the cooldown of the barrier's redeploy trigger. The shield snapped back into place behind them. The entire front row of monsters hit an invisible wall from the wrong side and folded like cheap furniture. That was when the guild captains stopped laughing at me. Not respecting me yet, not even close. But the laughter changed. It became the kind people made when they realized the joke had teeth. Wave 1 ended in 3 minutes. The system did not like that. Bonus condition broken. Wave 2 accelerated. Arrival in 6 minutes. Riley swung down from a broken sign and landed beside me. She had that wild look in her eyes again, the one that said we were about to survive something that should have killed us. She asked if I had a plan. I told her yes. That was a lie. I had 6 minutes to invent one. Wave 2 came from underground. The street split open and released trap towers covered in gears, lenses, and red crystals. They did not move. They did not need to. Each tower charged a beam for 12 seconds, fired, cooled for 12 seconds, and repeated. The beams carved through barriers and buildings like the city was made of wet paper. A normal fighter would destroy the towers. Grant tried. He punched the first tower so hard the shockwave cracked every window on the block. The tower bent backward, corrected its posture, and blasted him through a pharmacy. He got back up, but slower. That told me everything I needed to know. The towers were not tough because they had armor. They were tough because they had recovery cycles. So I reduced their firing cooldown. The nearest tower fired early. The beam went wide and cut through the tower next to it. I reduced the next tower's cooldown before it had finished turning. It fired into the third. Then I hit the third, fourth, and fifth with tiny reductions, not enough to make them all fire at once, just enough to make their timing ugly. The street became a laser argument. Towers shot towers, towers overheated, towers corrected too soon, rotated too far, and sliced through their own supports. The more the system tried to stabilize them, the more cooldowns appeared for me to touch. Correction cooldown. Targeting cooldown. Heat release cooldown. Emergency shut-off cooldown. My power worked like a pickpocket in a crowded market. I did not need to steal everything. I only needed to tug the right thread. Then Nora yelled that civilians were trapped under the east overpass. A tower had pinned them in place with a beam cycle too steady to cross. 10 seconds on, 2 seconds off, 10 seconds on, 2 seconds off. The gap was too short. Ava could not shield everyone. Riley could not carry them all. Grant could not reach the tower without getting cut in half. So I looked at the safe crossing light beside the street. A tiny pedestrian signal blinked red in the middle of the apocalypse, still following municipal programming like it had a pension to protect. Walk sign cooldown 90 seconds. I left, not because it was funny, because the universe had handed me a joke and a weapon in the same box. I reduced the walk sign cooldown. The light turned white. A system window appeared. Urban route safety protocol detected. Temporary crossing safe zone opened. The crosswalk lit up with gold lines. For 12 seconds, the tower beams bent away from it. People ran. The walk sign flickered red again. I reduced it again. White. Gold. Run. Again. Again. By the time the overpass collapsed, every civilian had crossed on a glowing crosswalk made by a traffic light everyone else had ignored. That was the first time the crowd shouted my name. Not loud, not heroic, more confused than grateful. But they said it. Evan. And I felt something inside my ability shift. Skill experience gained. Condition met. Cooldown manipulation used on non-combat civic system. Cooldown reduction has increased. Current effect 26%. The number was beautiful. 26% was not a joke. 26% was a loaded gun with a cracked safety. Wave 3 did not give us time to celebrate. The sky opened. A giant bell descended through the clouds, black iron, chained to nothing, swinging without wind. Every time it rang, all skills in the city went on cooldown at once. The first ring hit like a hammer. Riley fell from a rooftop when her movement skill shut off mid-step. Ava's healing light vanished while she was closing a wound. Grant's body reinforcement dropped just as a trap tower exploded beside him. Every fighter in the street shouted at the same time, staring at useless hands, dead weapons, and empty skill bars. My own ability flickered, then came back, because my ability did not have a visible cooldown anymore. It had become a habit. The bell rang again. Global skill lockout, 10 seconds. That was the true danger, not damage, silence. Every 10 seconds the bell stole everyone's power. It was a boss without a body, a raid mechanic hanging in the sky, and no one could reach it. The guild captain ordered archers to fire. The arrows froze in midair when the next ring hit. A mage tried to summon a firestorm. The spell died in his mouth. Grant asked if he should throw something at it. I told him yes. He picked up a car. I told him not that. He looked disappointed. I pointed at the broken clockwork dogs still piled in the street. Their gears were unstable. Their steam cores were still cycling. They had attack cooldowns, vent cooldowns, and self-destruct safety cooldowns. Grant finally smiled. He threw a dog. Not at the bell. At the chain shadow beneath it. The monster core exploded halfway up, not enough to touch the bell, but enough to make the air ripple. For one heartbeat, the bell's timer appeared. Ring cooldown, 10 seconds. Resonance stabilization cooldown, 60 seconds. Echo cleanse cooldown, 30 seconds. Now I could see the seams. I reduced the ring cooldown. The bell rang early. Everyone screamed as their skills locked again. Ava glared at me like she was going to heal me backward. But I was watching the bell. The early ring overlapped with its own echo cleanse. The sound doubled, twisted, and fed back into the iron shell. I reduced it again. Another ring. Then another. The bell began ringing so often it could not clear its own echoes. Sound stacked on sound. The sky vibrated. The black iron cracked. Every fighter in the city thought I had gone insane because I was making the problem worse. But that is the thing about rhythm. Sometimes you do not stop the drummer. You make him play too fast until his arms break. The bell rang 11 times in 20 seconds. Then it split down the middle. For one perfect moment, every locked skill in the city returned at once. Thousands of abilities fired upward. Fire, ice, lightning, arrows, blades, chains, barriers, curses, bullets, and one entire vending machine Grant launched because nobody had stopped him. The bell shattered. Wave 3 ended. And the system sent me a private message. Unauthorized rhythm damage detected. Player Evan has been flagged for review. That was new. I had been mocked, ignored, hunted, and underestimated. But reviewed. That sounded like the system was not angry enough to kill me yet. It was curious. Curiosity was worse. Wave 4 arrived as silence. No monsters, no traps, no bells. Just fog rolling through the streets, pale and thick swallowing sound. Every timer vanished. Every system window dimmed. For the first time since the awakening, I could not see cooldowns. I hated it immediately. The fog did not attack bodies. It attacked decisions. People forgot what they were doing halfway through doing it. A swordsman raised his blade, blinked, and asked why he was holding metal. A healer opened a potion and poured it onto the sidewalk. Civilians walked out of safe zones because they suddenly felt sure they had left something important behind. Nora grabbed my sleeve and told me the fog was creating memory cooldowns. Every thought had a reset timer. Remember fear, forget it. Remember danger, forget it. Remember allies, forget them. I tried to target the fog itself, but there was nothing to grab. No numbers, no windows, no rhythm. For 10 seconds, I felt useless again. And that 10 seconds tasted exactly like the first day. F rank. 1%. Everyone laughing. Then Riley slapped me. Hard. The world snapped back into focus. She did not explain, she just pointed at my wrist. I had tied a strip of cloth there earlier, back when we were marking rescued groups. On it, I had written a simple note to myself. Timers hide, cooldowns don't. That was it. That was the key. Fog could hide system windows, it could erase memory, but if it made thoughts reset, that reset had a cooldown, and if I could not see it, I could still feel the gap between forgetting and remembering. So I stopped looking with my eyes. I listened to my own mind. There, a pulse. Every 7 seconds, I forgot why I was afraid. Every 7 seconds, Riley's name blurred. Every 7 seconds, the plan dissolved. I reduced my own memory, reset cooldown. It sounds stupid. Why would I make myself forget faster? Because the fog was built to erase slow. It expected thoughts to fade, then replace themselves with calm lies. If I forced the reset too quickly, the lies could not finish loading. Forget. Remember. Forget. Remember. Forget. Remember. My mind became a flickering light, painful, ugly, but impossible for the fog to hold. Then I grabbed Riley's hand, then Ava's, then Nora's, then Grant's. My ability spread through contact now, not fully, not cleanly, but enough. I reduced their memory resets too. They staggered, cursed, and nearly fell, but their eyes cleared. Nora started writing instructions on every surface with a marker. Ava made healing pulses that flashed like lighthouse beams. Riley ran through the fog tying cords between safe zones so people could follow touch instead of thought. Grant did what Grant did best. He yelled so loud that even people who forgot language remembered volume. The fog shifted. For a second I saw its true shape, not mist, a giant white moth, wings spread over the city, dust falling from them like powdered sleep. Its wingbeat cooldown appeared for half a breath. Wingbeat memory wipe, 7 seconds. Dust renewal, 21 seconds. Pupa shield refresh, 60 seconds. I smiled so wide my face hurt. The moth had made one mistake. It had a pattern. I reduced the wingbeat cooldown until it flapped too fast. The fog thickened for 3 seconds, making everyone stumble. Then the dust ran out. I reduced dust renewal. It dumped more powder too soon, before the old layer had settled. The particles clumped in the air, heavy and wet. Ava fired a cleansing pulse. Nora redirected street sprinklers. Riley cut open a water tower. Grant threw the top half of a bus into the moth's wing, because apparently buses had become his favorite argument. The wet dust turned to paste. The moth tried to refresh its pupa shield. I reduced the shield refresh again and again. The shield layered over itself too quickly, hardened unevenly, and trapped the moth inside its own defense. It fell from the sky like a wrapped gift from a nightmare. Grant landed on it with both feet. Wave 4 ended, and my ability increased again. Current effect 29%. But the system did not announce Wave 5. Instead, the central tower lit up. A doorway opened in its side. Final wave condition altered. Player Evan has caused excessive event damage. Penalty trial initiated. Selected player must enter. The selected player was me. Of course it was. The crowd went silent. Few hours earlier, they had laughed when my rank appeared. Now thousands of people stared like I was the only lockpick left in a burning prison. Riley said she was coming with me. The system refused. Ava tried to cast a blessing on me. The system blocked it. Grant tried to step through the door anyway. The system threw him back so hard, he left a crater shaped exactly like overconfidence. Nora slipped something into my pocket before the barrier sealed. A marker. Not a weapon, not a potion, a marker. That was why I liked Nora. She understood that sometimes the most dangerous thing you could carry into a trial was a way to leave notes. I stepped inside. The tower interior looked like an office building designed by a clockmaker who hated employees. Endless desks, ticking lamps, elevators with no buttons, and gray workers made of paper sitting in chairs, stamping forms that vanished into the ceiling. A system window appeared over the reception desk. Penalty trial, Bureau of Delayed Death. Objective, file an appeal before your execution timer expires. Execution timer, 60 minutes. Current wait time, 72 hours. I stared at the numbers. Then I laughed so hard the paper workers all turned their blank faces toward me. The system had tried to kill me with bureaucracy. Against the guy who reduced waiting. Maybe it really did not understand me yet. I approached the front desk. A paper worker pushed a form at me. It had 12 pages, no questions, and 8 places for signatures that changed location whenever I blinked. Form review cooldown, 4 hours. Stamp ink refill cooldown, 30 minutes. Appointment slot refresh, 24 hours. Elevator arrival, 15 minutes. Death appeal window, 3 seconds. There were so many cooldowns that my power hummed with hunger. I did not reduce the execution timer. That would have been suicide. I had learned the difference between a timer that helped me and a timer that murdered me. Instead, I reduced the appointment slot refresh. A blank calendar behind the desk flipped pages at insane speed. Days became hours. Hours became minutes. A slot opened for 3 seconds at 2:17 in a year that did not exist. I signed my name there. The system accepted it. Appointment confirmed. Please wait. Wait time 71 hours, 59 minutes. I reduced the elevator arrival cooldown. The elevator doors opened instantly. Inside was another desk. Of course there was. A paper worker inside asked for proof that I was alive enough to appeal my death. I checked my status. Alive verification cooldown, 1 hour. I reduced it. A stamp appeared on my hand. Temporarily alive. Valid for 5 minutes. The elevator rose sideways. The next floor was a maze of cubicles where every path required a ticket. Ticket machines stood at each corner, all displaying out of service. Repair cooldown 3 days. I reduced 1. It repaired itself, spat out 800 tickets, overheated and caught fire. The paper workers panicked. They had a panic response cooldown. I reduced that too. Suddenly every worker panicked at once, stamping random forms, opening locked drawers, waving folders, and creating the kind of administrative disaster only a support ability could weaponize. I followed the chaos. A locked door required supervisor approval. The supervisor was asleep behind glass. Nap cooldown 2 hours. I reduced it. He woke up, stamped my form by reflex, and immediately fell asleep again. Then I reduced his nap cooldown once more. He woke up again, stamped the same form twice, which created a duplicate approval. The system hated duplicates. Duplicate approval detected. Escalating to higher office. A trapdoor opened under me. I fell upward. Higher office was a courtroom where the judge was a giant hourglass wearing a robe. Sand poured through its body, each grain carrying a tiny screaming face. The judge announced that I had 3 seconds to present my appeal. Appeal speech cooldown 10 minutes. I reduced the cooldown. Now I could speak again every 7 minutes. Useless. So I reduced it again. 5 minutes. Again. 3. Again. 1. Again. The courtroom shook, my skills strained, but the cooldown buckled. Appeal speech ready. I said 1 sentence. I appeal on the grounds that my execution was delayed past its own filing deadline. The judge froze. Every paper worker froze. Even the sand stopped screaming. A new timer appeared on the wall. Execution processing deadline expired. The system had built an office around delays. I made it delay itself into failure. Trial cleared. Reward temporal filing privilege. Effect once per day. Place 1 observed cooldown into queue storage for later release. I did not fully understand it, but I knew it sounded illegal. The tower spat me back into the city with 11 seconds left before the 5th wave. Everyone stared. Nora asked what happened. I held up my stamped hand. Temporarily alive. Grant nodded like that explained everything. Then Wave 5 arrived. The central plaza split open, and a giant clockwork angel crawled out of the ground. 6 wings made of blades, a halo spinning with countdowns, a face with no eyes, only a golden timer counting down from 5 minutes. Judgment Angel. Wave 5 boss. Invulnerability phase, active. Vulnerability window opens in 5 minutes. Every guild fighter groaned. 5 minutes of surviving an invulnerable boss was usually normal raid design. Dodge, protect civilians, conserve energy, wait for the damage window. But I was done waiting. The angel lifted one hand and marked 100 people with golden circles. Their death timers began counting down from 30 seconds. Ava's face went white. She could save maybe 10. The guilds could shield maybe 20. The rest were supposed to die so the boss could feel dramatic. I looked at the vulnerability window. Then at the death marks. Then at my new privilege. Queue storage ready. Once per day, place 1 observed cooldown into storage. I could store a cooldown for later release. So I did the dumbest smart thing I had ever done. I stored the boss's vulnerability window cooldown. The system hesitated. For the first time, it felt like the world blinked. Vulnerability window cooldown stored. Current state undefined. The angel froze. Its invulnerability phase had been waiting for a vulnerability window. I had taken the waiting away. not finished it, not reduced it, removed it from the schedule and put it in my pocket like a stolen watch. The boss did not know whether it was invulnerable or vulnerable. So it became both. Half its body shone gold, half cracked black. Tax bounced off one wing and carved through another. Riley saw it first. She ran along a fallen statue and sliced the dark wing open. Grant punched the cracked side and broke 2 fingers, then smiled because the angel actually moved. Ava used healing light offensively, not to damage the angel, but to overload the golden marks on the civilians. Healing had a recovery rhythm. Death marks had a trigger rhythm. I reduced the trigger cooldown just enough that each mark tried to activate before it had confirmed a target. The marks fizzled. Nora shouted the pattern from the plaza fountain, her tablet held over her head like a sacred relic of common sense. Left side fake, right side real. Halo rotation controls phase correction. The halo. Of course. Phase correction cooldown, 40 seconds. I reduced it. The angel tried to fix itself early, but its vulnerability window was still in my storage. The correction found nothing to correct into. The halo spun backward. The angel screamed, not with a mouth, but with every church bell in the district. I released the stored cooldown. Vulnerability window released. The 5-minute waiting period slammed into the angel all at once. A normal boss becomes vulnerable after the timer ends. This one experienced 5 minutes of delayed vulnerability in a single instant. Its invulnerability shattered so hard the shockwave blew the fog out of the city. Every fighter attacked. For once, I did not need to be the blade. I had made the opening. The angel fell to one knee. Then it smiled. A second halo unfolded behind the first. Hidden condition met. Boss will resurrect in 10 minutes. I almost respected it. Almost. Boss resurrection timers were supposed to create despair. You spend everything, you win, then the enemy gets back up stronger while your team is empty. But resurrection was just another cooldown. I reduced it. The angel resurrected instantly. Everyone shouted because, from their point of view, I had just brought the boss back early. But it came back before its second form finished loading. Its wings appeared without joints, its halo spawned inside its neck, its judgment sword dropped from the sky and landed point first in its own foot. Grant actually stopped fighting for 1 second, just to admire it. Then I reduced the resurrection timer again. Angel died, resurrected, glitched, died again, resurrected worse, and began stacking unfinished second forms on top of itself. Every version tried to overwrite the last. Every overwrite had a cooldown. Every cooldown was mine. The plaza became a factory of broken angels. After the 7th resurrection, the system begged me to stop. Not in words. In penalties. Cooldown interference limit warning. Wave boss structure destabilized. Reward calculation at risk. That last line made me pause. Reward calculation. There it was. The system cared about rewards. That meant rewards had cooldowns too. I looked past the angel, past the fighting, past the cracked plaza, and focused on the invisible machinery behind victory. Event reward distribution cooldown after boss defeat. Ranking announcement cooldown after reward calculation. Secret contribution review cooldown 7 days. 7 days. Absolutely not. I reduced the secret contribution review cooldown. The system tried to evaluate my contribution while I was still contributing. Numbers flooded my vision. Civilians saved, boss mechanics disrupted, waves collapsed, urban protocols exploited, penalty trial cleared, bureaucracy humiliated, angel resurrection abused. The calculation could not decide whether I was support, damage, control, sabotage, healer, tank, or public infrastructure. So it gave me a new category. Event MVP, Evan. Title acquired, cooldown thief. Public rank adjustment pending. The whole city saw it. The same people who had laughed at F rank watched my name appear over the central tower in letters bigger than the angel. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then the angel moved. Because dramatic timing is apparently a universal disease. Gathered every broken resurrection into one final body, a giant stitched angel with 12 halos and a sword made of failed timers. Its health bar did not show numbers anymore. It showed a question mark. Unknown phase. Unknown cooldown. Unknown victory condition. I was tired, my head throbbed. My ability felt like a wire being pulled through my bones, but I had learned something in the tower. When the system hides the answer, attack the process. If I could not see the victory condition, I could look at what happened before victory. Damage registration. Thread updates. Aggro switch. Phase check. Loot lock. Death confirmation. There. Death confirmation cooldown, 3 seconds after lethal state. The angel did not need to die. It needed the system to confirm it had died. I turned to Grant and told him to hit it once. He looked offended. Once. Just once. He charged with every ounce of strength he had left and punched the angel in the knee. It barely moved, but its health flickered for less than a heartbeat. Lethal state, false. Death confirmation, waiting. I reduced the death confirmation cooldown. The system checked too early. At that exact moment, Riley drove her blade into the cracked halo. Ava overloaded the judgment marks with healing light, and Nora triggered every remaining safe zone siren in the plaza at once. For one impossible frame, the angel's state flickered between alive, dead, damaged, healing, resurrecting, and pending. The system chose the cleanest answer. Death confirmed. The angel exploded into golden dust. This time I did not reduce its resurrection. I let that cooldown stay dead. Clockfall parade cleared. City survival rate, 94%. Unprecedented result. Rewards distributing. The sky filled with windows. People cheered, people cried, people collapsed. A few guild captains tried to pretend they had always believed in me, which was impressive because some of them had thrown things at me 2 hours earlier. Then my public rank updated. Player Evan. Ability Cooldown Reduction. Display rank C. Hidden rank remained blank. That scared me more than if it had shown S. Because blank meant the system was still thinking. And thinking systems make terrible decisions. Next morning, the city looked like someone had used it as a boss arena, which, to be fair, they had. Buildings lined, roads smoked. The central tower was gone, replaced by a crater full of ticking golden sand. But people were alive. And for the first time, when I walked through the relief camp, no one called me useless. They whispered instead. Cooldown's thief. The F-rank who broke a world event. The support who made an angel forget how to stay alive. I should have enjoyed it. I really should have. But fame has a cooldown too. It lasts exactly until stronger people decide they want what you have. That afternoon, a black gate opened above the relief camp. Not a dungeon gate, not a monster gate. A shop gate. The sign flickered in gold letters. Hidden shop, disaster surplus. Opening cooldown 30 days. Access window 60 seconds. Every survivor saw it, every guild saw it, every greedy person within 10 blocks suddenly remembered they had legs. The crowd surged, but the gate was 50 feet in the air. Riley looked at me. I looked at the opening cooldown. 30 days. I reduced it. The shop vanished. Everyone screamed at me. Then I reduced it again. The shop reopened 3 feet above my head. That was the trick. The hidden shop was not just on a timer. Its location refreshed with each opening. By forcing the cooldown early, I made it reroll before the system finished anchoring it. The gate dropped like a lazy elevator. I stepped inside before anyone else understood. A shopkeeper made of folded receipts stood behind a counter stacked with broken miracles. No name appeared over its head, which meant I did not have to waste one on it. The shelves were ridiculous. A cloak that refreshed dodge cooldowns when the wearer lied. A coin that could delay one fatal injury until the next sunrise. A pocket watch that made enemies wait in line before attacking. A pair of boots that reduced falling damage if the fall was narratively dramatic. Prices were worse. Not gold, not points. Seconds, years, memories. The shop wanted time. I had no interest in paying retail. So I looked at the discounts. Disaster clearance sale cooldown, 90 days. Customer loyalty refresh, 10 purchases. Misplaced inventory check, 24 hours. Coupon generation, random. I reduced the clearance sale cooldown. Every price dropped by 10%. I reduced it again. Another sale layered over the first. The receipt shopkeeper twitched. I reduced coupon generation. A coupon printed. Then another. Then 20. Most were useless. 5% off emotional trauma. Buy one cursed relic, receive one apology. free shipping on items that could not be moved. Then one printed in black ink. One-time coupon, pay with someone else's wait time. I smiled. Outside the shop, hundreds of fighters were trying to force their way through the entrance barrier. The barrier told them they were not first customers and had to wait. Their wait time stacked like a mountain. I used the coupon. The shopkeeper rang a tiny bell. I bought the pocket watch. Item acquired, Q-Breaker watch. Effect once per battle, force one targeted action to wait behind another pending action. It sounded polite. That made it dangerous. I also bought a cracked hourglass full of silver dust. Item acquired, borrowed minutes. Effect survive one lethal hit by borrowing 60 seconds from your future body. Side effect, future body will notice. I did not like that side effect. I bought it anyway. Then I found the real prize locked inside a glass case. Manual Advanced Cooldown Theory, Volume 1. Price 10 years. I had nowhere near that. But the case had a restock cooldown. Restock cooldown sold out. Interesting. A sold out item had a cooldown even before being sold. I reduced it. The case refilled with a second copy. The shopkeeper grabbed for it. I reduced the inventory audit cooldown. The system checked the shelf, saw 2 copies of an item that should only have one, and marked one as surplus. Surplus item discount, 100%. I took the manual. The shop screamed in receipt paper. Then the access window closed and threw me outside. The crowd fell silent when they saw the items in my hands. One guild captain demanded I hand them over for the good of the city. I asked if he meant the same city that had called me trash yesterday. He did not have a good answer. Grant stepped beside me. Riley appeared on my other side. Ava did not say anything, but her healing light turned sharp enough to make the nearest fighters step back. Nora looked up from the manual and whispered that it was written like a textbook by someone who hated reality. The first chapter had one sentence underlined. A cooldown is not a limitation, it is a promise that something will happen later. That sentence changed everything. Because if a cooldown was a promise, then I was not reducing numbers. I was forcing promises to be kept early. That night, while everyone celebrated survival, I studied the manual under a broken streetlight. It explained categories I had never considered. Natural cooldowns like sleep cycles and hunger recovery. System cooldowns like skills and quests. Environmental cooldowns like trap resets and safe zones. Behavioral cooldowns like monster attacks and human hesitation. Conceptual cooldowns like rumors spreading, fear returning, hope rebuilding, disasters repeating. The final line of Chapter 1 made my hands go cold. The strongest cooldown users do not speed up skills, they control the order of events. Order of events. That was why the Q-Breaker watch mattered. That was why the Bureau of Delayed Death rewarded filing privileges. That was why the system flagged me. I was no longer just making things faster. I was cutting in line. The next crisis arrived before sunrise because apparently the apocalypse hated sleep. A quest window appeared over every survivor. Daily reconstruction quest available. Reward food, water, shelter, repair materials. Quest refresh 24 hours. Failure to complete, supply shortage. The city needed those quests. Without them, relief camps would starve in a week. But there was a catch. Only the first 10,000 accepted quests would receive rewards. There were over 100,000 survivors. The system had turned disaster relief into a race. People panicked, strong fighters shoved weak ones aside to grab tasks. Guilds started claiming entire quest boards. The old world had collapsed, but somehow lines and greed survived without taking damage. I walked to the nearest quest board and touched the refresh timer. Quest refresh 24 hours. I reduced it. The board refreshed early. New quests appeared. People cheered. Then every guild captain in range realized what that meant. If they controlled me, they controlled food. The air changed. I felt it before anyone moved. Behavioral cooldowns. Threat decision cooldowns. Betrayal hesitation cooldowns. Hands drifted toward weapons. Riley saw it too and vanished into the crowd. Grant rolled his shoulders. Ava stepped between me and the civilians. Nora grabbed the manual and backed away because she was smart enough to protect the book before the idiot holding it. The first fighter lunged. I used Q-Breaker watch. His attack was forced to wait behind another pending action. The pending action was a child accepting a water delivery quest. So the fighter froze mid-swing, while a little kid carefully pressed accept on the board. The crowd stared. I walked past him and reduced the quest board refresh again. More quests appeared. Then I did something the guilds could not fight. I reduced the cooldown of the system announcement. A blue window flashed above the camp. Public notice, reconstruction quests refreshed by player Evan. Contribution access recommended for civilians. I reduced announcement cooldown again. The message repeated over every district. Then again. Then again. Within minutes, everyone knew I could refresh supply quests, and everyone knew the quests were meant for civilians. The guilds could still attack me. But now they would be attacking the only reason starving families were getting food. Their reputation damage had a cooldown too. I did not even have to touch it. People's eyes did that for me. The fighters lowered their weapons. Not because they became good. Because being seen is sometimes stronger than being stabbed. By dawn, we had refreshed enough boards to feed half the city. By noon, my ability hit 31%. By evening, I had enemies with better clothes. A formal challenge appeared in the sky. City ranking duel requested. Challenger top C rank. Target Evan. Stakes public rank position. Event reward claim rights. Decline cooldown 24 hours. Accept cooldown 10 seconds. The system still refused to show the challenger's name, which was perfect, because I did not need another important character walking into my life with a haircut and a grudge. The duel arena formed in the ruined plaza. Thousands gathered. The challenger wore shining armor, carried a spear that hummed with lightning, and had the smug posture of someone who practiced standing above people in mirrors. His ability was Flash Step. A real combat ability, a flashy one. He could teleport short distances every 5 seconds and strike before most people blinked. Against normal fighters, that was terrifying. Against me, it was a metronome wearing armor. The duel began. He vanished. I reduced his Flash Step cooldown. He reappeared too early, before his attack animation aligned. His spear thrust past 6 inches from my face and buried itself in the ground. The crowd gasped. He vanished again. I reduced it again. This time he blinked behind me, then immediately blinked sideways, then forward, then up, each jump triggering before his balance recovered. After 4 seconds, he looked less like a warrior and more like a badly edited video. But he was not stupid. Angry, yes. Arrogant, absolutely, but not stupid. He stopped using Flash Step. He charged on foot. Good. That meant I had already changed his behavior. His spear had a lightning discharge cooldown. I reduced it. The spear fired before he aimed, blasting the ground and throwing dust between us. He used the dust as cover. Clever. Then he threw the spear. The weapon split into 3 copies midair. I could not dodge all 3, so I did not dodge the spears. I reduced the arena barrier repair cooldown. The cracked barrier panel beside me restored itself just as the spears crossed its line. All 3 slammed into invisible glass. The challenger recalled the spear. Weapon return cooldown 3 seconds. I reduced it. The spear flew back early while he was still stepping forward. The handle hit him in the back of the helmet. The crowd went very quiet. Then Riley laughed from somewhere in the stands. That broke them. The plaza erupted. The challenger roared and activated his ultimate. Thunder execution. Cast time 5 seconds. Post-cast stun 2 seconds. Cooldown 1 hour. The sky darkened, lightning gathered around his spear. My skin prickled, even Grant looked impressed. I could reduce the cast time and make it hit sooner, but that would just kill me faster. I could reduce the cooldown, but he only needed to use it once. So I reduced the post-cast stun cooldown. Nothing happened, because the stun had not started yet. Exactly. Then I used temporal filing privilege and queued the stun for later release. The system allowed it. The challenger completed his ultimate. Lightning fell. I used borrowed minutes. The world flashed white. For 1 second I was dead. Then I was not. Lethal damage delayed 60 seconds. My future body would notice. That was a problem for future me, and future me had been acting way too comfortable anyway. The challenger stood panting, victorious, waiting for my body to fall. I released his postcast stun. He froze. Not after attacking. During his victory pose. Then I walked up and placed one finger on his armor. His defensive buff cooldown was still recovering from the ultimate. I reduced the recovery just enough to trigger the buff early. The armor hardened around him before he finished breathing. His own muscles locked inside it. He fell over like a statue. Dual victory, Evan. Public rank updated. Display rank B. The cheers were louder this time, but all I could hear was the ticking in my chest. Borrowed minute had 50 seconds left. Then 40. Then 30. Ava reached me first. She tried to heal the delayed death, but her light slid off like rain on glass. The item had not prevented the hit. It had only postponed the bill. Nora flipped through the manual with shaking hands. Riley scanned the crowd for enemies because panic made her practical. Grant asked if punching the concept of future pain would help. I appreciated the spirit, but I had another idea. The lethal hit was scheduled to land on my future body. Scheduled, which meant it had an arrival cooldown. Delayed lethal damage arrival, 17 seconds. There it was. I reduced it. Ava shouted at me to stop making death faster. But I was not trying to survive by delaying it. I was trying to make it arrive while something else was happening. At 10 seconds, I stepped into a healing circle. At 7 seconds, I reduced Ava's healing pulse cooldown. At 4 seconds, I reduced my own pain response cooldown until adrenaline flooded my body. At 1 second, I used Q-Breaker Watch. I forced the lethal damage to wait behind Ava's healing pulse. Her healing landed first. The death hit arrived second. The two effects collided inside my body. For one horrible breath, every bone in me tried to become an argument. Then the system made a ruling. Lethal damage resolved. Survival confirmed. Item side effect transferred. My future body noticed. A ghostly version of me appeared for half a second, looking exhausted, annoyed, and slightly taller. He pointed at me like I owed him money. Then he vanished. I decided not to think about that. Thinking about future versions of myself sounded like a hobby for people who had already lost. That night, I finally opened the advanced manual to Chapter 2. The title was simple: Evolution Trials. My original evolution trial had a 30-day entry cooldown. After the parade, the duel, the shop, and the public rank jump, the timer had changed. Evolution trial entry cooldown, 30 days. Acceleration allowed. Risk unknown. Unknown risk is the system's way of saying, please do not do this, we did not build enough warning labels. So naturally, I prepared to do it. But preparation did not mean charging straight in. That was how strong idiots died and became motivational speeches. I spent the next 3 days turning the city into my training ground. Not with push-ups, not with sword drills, with timing. I reduced trap reset cooldowns in abandoned dungeons until I could walk through arrow storms by making them fire at each other. I reduced monster roar cooldowns until packs stunned themselves with overlapping intimidation. I reduced poison tick cooldowns on captured slime samples so they burned through their own venom in seconds. I reduced healing herb regrowth cooldowns and created a rooftop farm that produced medicine every hour instead of every week. I reduced broken generator restart cooldowns, water purifier maintenance cooldowns, elevator arrival cooldowns, radio broadcast cooldowns, and even the cooldown on a vending machine's failed payment error until it got so tired of rejecting coins that it spat out every snack inside. Grant called that my greatest victory. Ava disagreed, but she still ate the chips. Every trick taught me something. Too much reduction created overload. Too little reduction created efficiency. The difference was intention. If I wanted allies stronger, I smoothed their rhythm. If I wanted enemies destroyed, I made their rhythm trip over itself. By the end of the 3rd day, the camp no longer looked like refugees waiting to be saved. It looked like a machine built from scraps, powered by timers nobody else could see. Quest boards refreshed in rotation, healing stations pulsed in waves, patrol shifts aligned with monster spawn delays, hidden shop windows were checked every hour because I had reduced enough rerolls to map their pattern. People started calling the area Evans Clockyard. I hated the name. Riley loved it, which made it worse. But success attracts correction. On the 4th night, the sky turned red. System balance patch incoming. All screens locked. All players froze. Not physically, worse, functionally. Skills still existed, but every ability description changed at once. Numbers adjusted, cooldowns increased, hidden interactions narrowed, exploits sealed. The system was patching the world. Because of me. My ability window opened. Ability Cooldown Reduction. Current effect 34%. Patch note: non-skill targeting will be limited. A cold feeling spread through my chest. That was the line between clever and dead. If the patch completed, I would become what everyone thought I was at the beginning, a minor support with a slightly better number. Useful. Not dangerous. Not enough. Patch progress appeared over the city. System patch completion 1%. Patch tick cooldown 10 seconds. I almost laughed. They really put a cooldown on the patch. I reduced it. Patch completion jumped faster. Nora screamed that I was helping it. I told her I knew. At 12%, the system began rewriting environmental targeting. At 20%, hidden shop abuse restrictions appeared. At 31%, resurrection timer protections loaded. I kept reducing the patch tick cooldown. The patch accelerated. Everyone looked at me like I had betrayed them. But patches are dangerous because they test changes in order. If you force them too fast, they do not test anything. At 47%, warning windows began stacking. At 63%, the system skipped compatibility checks. At 78%, the sky glitched. At 91%, every player's ability window flickered between old and new text. Then I used temporal filing privilege. I stored the final patch confirmation cooldown. Patch completion requires final confirmation. Confirmation cooldown stored. The patch reached 100%. And stopped. It had rewritten itself but could not confirm the rewrite. Old rules and new rules overlapped. For 7 seconds, I had access to both. 7 seconds does not sound like much. But when your entire life is cooldowns, 7 seconds is a kingdom. I targeted my own ability evolution clause. Under the old rules, non-skill targeting counted. Under the new rules, it was restricted. Under the overlap, using non-skill targeting while restricted counted as resistance. I reduced my own evolution eligibility check. Then reduced it again. Then again. The system tried to reject the checks, but rejection had a cooldown too. Eligibility check failed. Rejection cooldown 5 seconds. I reduced the rejection cooldown until it rejected itself too early, before it had finished reading the request. Eligibility check pending. Pending review cooldown 12 hours. I reduced that. Eligibility confirmed. Evolution trial entry cooldown reduced by special condition. 30 days became 20. 20 became 10. 10 became 1. Then the stored patch confirmation began shaking in my queue like a bomb. I could not hold it much longer. So I released it into the one place I wanted the system looking. The evolution trial request. Patch confirmed. Exception grandfathered. Ability evolution trial unlocked. My skill description changed. Ability cooldown reduction. Display rank B. True class candidate temporal saboteur. Current effect 37%. Non-skill targeting preserved under unique path. The patch completed. The system had tried to lock the door. I made it sign my permission slip first. That should have been the end of the night. But the red sky cracked open and something looked through. Not a monster. Not a boss. An administrator. I could not see its face, only a silhouette made of black code and white gloves, like a person-shaped error message pretending to be polite. Admin observation initiated. Player Evan has been designated anomaly. The entire city knelt. Not by choice. A pressure dropped on us so heavy my teeth hurt. Riley hit one knee. Grant tried to stand and failed. Ava's healing light flickered like a candle in a storm. Nora's tablet cracked down the middle. The administrator raised one hand. All cooldowns in the city paused. For everyone else, that meant no skills recovered. For me, it meant the world had stopped breathing. My ability reached for a cooldown and found nothing moving. No rhythm. No waiting. No promise. For the second time since awakening, I felt truly powerless. Then I remembered the manual. A cooldown is a promise that something will happen later. The administrator had paused cooldowns. But pause was not deletion. A paused promise still existed. It was just being held. So I looked at the administrator's hand. Pause maintenance interval 1 second. There, even gods have to keep pressing the button. I reduced the maintenance interval. The administrator's pause refreshed too fast. The city stuttered. For 1/10 of a second, every cooldown resumed. That was enough for Riley to move her finger. Enough for Ava's healing light to spark. Enough for Grant to breathe. Enough for Nora's broken tablet to flash one line of data. Admin action Q, erase anomaly. Erasure cast 3 seconds. Cooldown after cast, none. No cooldown after cast. Of course, administrators do not wait after deleting bugs. But the cast time had a Q position. I used Q breaker watch. I forced erase anomaly to wait behind another pending action. The pending action was a system announcement I had triggered earlier and never let finish. Public notice, reconstruction quests refreshed by player Evan. The announcement played again across the city. The administrator froze for the smallest fraction of a second, forced to wait while the world reminded everyone that I had fed them. People looked up. Not fully standing, not free, but watching. And attention mattered. Because the system could erase a bug. Racing a public event MVP in front of a city whose survival calculations depended on him required review. Reputational damage review cooldown 5 minutes. I almost cried from relief. Another timer. I reduced it. The review triggered instantly. Conflict detected. Anomaly erasure may reduce survivor morale, quest efficiency, and regional stability. Erasure delayed. The administrator turned its faceless head toward me. I could feel its anger without it moving. Then it pointed at the evolution trial, door now glowing behind me. Anomaly will be resolved through trial. Forced entry prepared. Entry cooldown 60 seconds. The city unfroze. Everyone collapsed. The administrator vanished. And the trial door remained. 60 seconds. After everything I had done to choose my timing, the system had decided to choose for me. Riley grabbed my arm and told me we could run. Ava said she could hide my presence for maybe 10 seconds. Grant offered to hold the door shut, which was heroic and completely impossible. Nora looked at the manual, then at me, then at the glowing countdown. She said the trial was no longer just evolution. It was containment. The system did not want me stronger. It wanted me inside a place where nobody could see what happened. The entry cooldown ticked down. 50, 40, 30. I could reduce it and enter now. I could try to delay it and maybe make things worse. Or I could do what I always did. Cheat the part nobody was watching. The forced entry had a destination lock. Destination lock refresh, 10 seconds. I reduced the refresh. The lock flickered through possible trial rooms. Broken clocks. Frozen battlefield. Empty courtroom. Endless staircase. Black ocean. Throne of stopped seconds. There, I saw the room from my preview. The thing waiting for me. The disaster cycle. The administrator had not created the trial. It had thrown me toward something older. Something the system itself was afraid to touch. 10 seconds remained. I grabbed Nora's marker and wrote 4 words on my arm. Steal the next day. Then I looked at my friends. Not a speech. Speeches take too long and usually get people stabbed. I just told them to keep every cooldown in the city moving. Quest boards, shops, safe zones, healing pulses, announcements, anything with a rhythm. Because if I found a way back, I would need the world to still be ticking. The door opened. The administrator's pressure returned behind it. The evolution trial pulled me forward. And right before it swallowed me, my ability pulsed one more time. Current effect 40%. Temporal saboteur trial access granted. I opened the evolution trial details. Trial reminder cooldown 24 hours. Trial preview cooldown 7 days. Trial eligibility check cooldown 12 hours. Trial entry cooldown 30 days. The door was locked, but the peephole was not. I reduced the preview cooldown. The room went black. I was no longer in bed. I stood in an endless space filled with broken clocks, floating gates, and shadows of things that had not happened yet. A figure sat on a throne made of stopped seconds. I could not see its face. I could only see the timer above its head. Next apocalypse disaster cycle, ready. It spoke in a voice like every alarm in the world ringing at once. So you are the one who keeps touching my clocks. I tried to move. Couldn't. The preview was supposed to be safe. But something had noticed me through it. A new system window appeared. Hidden trial override. Temporal saboteur evolution begins now. Survive until entry cooldown catches up. Time remaining 30 days. The shadow lifted one hand. 30 days of survival. 1 second passed. The timer became 29 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. Then I felt my ability pulse. Cooldown reduction 25%. Partial redirection ready. Range extension ready. Somewhere beyond the black space, I heard Riley shouting my name, Ava's healing light flickering against a frozen world, Nora screaming that the system was rewriting the map, and Grant punching something he probably should not have punched. The shadow smiled without a mouth. I smiled back. Because if it wanted me to survive 30 days, I already knew the first thing I was going to steal. The cooldown on tomorrow. To be continued.